All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. I'm pumped today to have David Czinn on the podcast. He is the co-founder and president, I believe. Is that what your title is at
Correct.
Devash Organics? David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shane. It's great to be here. Really appreciate you having me.
100%. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come on the show, man. I came across you, and I've said this a few times on here. I came across you organically on LinkedIn, which we talked briefly before we started this. I think LinkedIn's just becoming a wild platform as far as like organically finding new people and growing your network. So speaking of Devash Organics, the company you're leading, would you mind just giving everyone a quick rundown of what it is and what type of products you sell?
Absolutely. So, Devash Organics, my best friend and I, Brian Finkel, we started the company back in 2016. And Brian and I actually met each other on a study abroad trip many years ago. It was back in 2006. And we always knew we wanted to do a business together. And so we studied abroad in the Middle East and came across incredible products. And, Brian, he's actually from Chicago
Oh,
originally.
okay.
I'm from Cleveland. And so Brian and I immediately hit it off. And if you fast forward to college, Brian was actually he was doing consulting in the Middle East at the time, and really incredible guy. He's fluent in Hebrew and Mandarin and English, and he grew up in Chicago. But he was working on a project, and Brian came across date syrup in the Middle East, and he was like, David, he's like, this is an incredible product. We should really consider selling this in the U.S. And I did some research. I moved out to LA since college, and I noticed that with everyone just into health and wellness and a better for you mindset, that there was really an incredible opportunity here, especially since Los Angeles had so many date farms nearby within proximity in the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
And so we kind of thought, okay, well, what if we buy the ugly dates and we convert them into a healthy alternative sweetener made from dates? And so honey, for the longest time, even now, has had a lot of issues on the sustainability side. And, the cost of honey is increasing exponentially. It's a lot of the honeybees are dying due to the pesticides that are used today. And so date syrup has been around forever. It's been around since the beginning of time, and that's actually what people used back in the day before they even knew how to harvest honey. And so with the Mediterranean diet really exploding, it really made us think, okay, you know what? Let's give this a shot. Let's see what we can do. And we set up shop in a farmer's market in Brentwood. And from there we got really lucky. Whole Foods took a chance on us, Sprouts took a chance on us. And now we're in about 6,500 stores across the U.S. We sell to anywhere from Walmart to Costco, Whole Foods,
Wow.
Sprouts. We do a lot of food service business. So we now sell snacks. We do sustainable snacks, sweeteners, syrups, marinades, and dressings. And so everything we do is built around sustainability and better for you products that actually taste good. And it's been a really incredible adventure. We still have a long road to go, but it's been really, really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have done, as I was doing my research for this, I was shocked. I didn't realize the distribution you guys have. I mean, it's pretty incredible how early on in your, in the company's lifespan, that you guys have been able to gain a lot of this distribution. It's really impressive. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. I mean, we're big believers in, straight up hustling, and, we've got an incredible team, and, a lot of it is just constantly knocking on doors. Just because you hear no today doesn't mean you'll hear no tomorrow. And you have to stick with it, remain motivated. And, look, it took us 4 years to get into Costco. And it's like, we made sure to, do the best job we possibly could. And, that's kind of how we take everything. We look at everything as an opportunity to prove ourselves. And, we did really well in one Whole Foods region and led us getting into 3 more. We did really well in one Costco region, led us getting into 2 more. And so it's little things like that where if you're able to, create the data that allows you to tell the story, then it becomes a much easier story to tell. And, that's really what we like to build ourselves on.
Yeah, well, I love that. It makes a ton of sense. And I think obviously if you have data to back up anything, that's where my mind goes being a finance guy. So it's funny too. I thought of when you were explaining that the beginnings of this. Obviously, I know a little bit about the date business, being in from RX Bar. You know, that I've learned a lot about dates. I never thought that was going to be part of what I, you know, learned when I joined RX in 2017. Could you give everyone a little bit of a background? So, I mean, your partner, you knew you guys want to start a business there. Do you remember really early on, like, I guess learning about date syrup is one thing, but obviously going from that to where you are today in Costco is a very big jump with tons of steps in between. Do you remember early on just like getting some of the original maybe date syrups that you were finding overseas, and like just kind of that beginning process of like, okay, cool, we want to start a business, we think this is a good idea. Like, kind of walk us through that very beginning, because I think that's a pivotal moment for a lot of founders.
Absolutely. So in the early beginning, I actually had Brian send me a bunch of samples of products that he found in the supermarkets, and he was working in Tel Aviv at the time, and so he sent over all these samples. Half of them broke, you know, they were shipped in glass, and and but I noticed that a lot of the products were contained added sugar, and so I noticed that, you know, they weren't as pure and as clean as what we were looking to do. And, you know, same thing, living in Los Angeles is a very large, you know, Armenian and Persian population out here. So I went to all of the, you know, local supermarkets, and I noticed same thing. A lot of those products, it was very rare that you found a product with nothing but dates. And,
Oh, okay.
you know, that was really kind of like that was like our big epiphany. And we were like, wow, you know, okay, why aren't people doing this? Why is there added coloring? You know, why is there added preservatives? A lot of citric acid being used, and, you know, dates are definitely expensive, but there's also enough sugar in there that you don't need any preservatives if you use the pure date. And so we really noticed that there was a market and opportunity. And, you know, education, we recognize, is going to be the most difficult thing, because still, you know, I mean, as you know, in Chicago, obviously you're at, you know, your experience with our X bar, you know, you have more, you know, you have a more of a knowledge about dates than probably most people. But when I talk to my friends at home who I grew up with in Cleveland, and, you know, same with Brian, a lot of his friends in Chicago, people still aren't so familiar with dates. And so
Sure.
for us, it, like Los Angeles, you know, California is kind of its own ecosystem where, you know, everything health and wellness, you know, I mean, I joke with my friends in New York and Miami, you know, I feel like everything starts in LA, and it bridges east. But,
Yeah,
you know,
sure. I
they
think it
say
does
the
though. Yeah.
yeah, you know, they say the opposite, but that's, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But no, but we really recognized that there was a huge opportunity once we tried all of, or as many products as we could. You know, we just went through a wormhole and just started Googling everything. Anytime we found a date syrup, we wanted to buy it, we wanted to try it, we wanted to figure out how we could really make the best product. And so, you know, I think a lot of it is, as we learned early on, it's, you know, one thing, you need an incredible product, but you also have to make sure you have a great story and you have incredible branding. And so we noticed also that a lot of the products at some of these more ethnic supermarkets were, you know, the branding was awful. And it's even
Yeah.
like one of those things, if you go to Fancy Food Show, you know, in New York or San Francisco, I feel like when you look at a lot of the products that we have here, the branding is incredible. And that's why so many international distributors are so eager to bring on American products, because I think from just a marketing standpoint, I mean, look, you have great, beautiful branded products everywhere, but I do think that the branding game, you're forced to step it up a notch,
Yeah.
because there's so much incredible creativity out here in this space. And so, you know, I think we recognize that there's an opportunity there.
Makes a ton of sense. Did you, as you're like testing things, and I'm assuming like while you're getting samples, were you one of those people that made like the hard jump and you were like, we're starting this, and you just started going? Or were you kind of like testing and doing all this while you were, and I know this wasn't your first endeavor, by the way. I know you actually started another company back before then, and you've been on some boards. So you've done a lot of different things. Were you kind of still doing your old gig when you were starting to test this stuff out?
Um, I when we started to test it out, I was, but we recognized that the opportunity here was so massive, because you have multiple ways to win. You know, as one of my good friends, you know, Ben Berman always says, if, you know, he's big in real estate, but he always says, if you want to be successful, you need to buy a property that has multiple ways to win.
Hmm.
And so I've really taken that philosophy and applied it to the CPG space as well. And what makes Devash so incredible is that not only can we win in retail, we can win in food service. We can sell it to brands as an ingredient, as a commodity. And that's really where I saw the opportunity. And, I think that we were able to position ourselves really, really well, especially, during COVID and in the new world post-COVID, because, retail is changing. The whole world is changing. When you look at, retail today, I definitely don't think that as many people are going to be going back to the stores as they once were. I think things like Amazon Prime, Instacart, DoorDash, people, we live in a world where people are looking for convenience.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to develop new strategies where where and how you will be able to educate the customer that you exist today. And that's a big thing that I think a lot of brands are trying to pivot and really figure out, especially with, Facebook and, Apple with iOS 14, changing the algorithm. I think that, for us, we really recognized that, we could market our product to many different avenues, which would not only help us educate and generate awareness, but it would also help us educate people as a whole about the benefits of dates and date syrup. And so that was kind of what really intrigued me and where I saw the huge opportunity. Because I think one thing, and it took me a while to learn this too, a lot of people, when you launch a brand, I think you look at it like, okay, I just need one brand. I'll have multiple SKUs of that one brand. But in order to remain relevant, I think I think in today's world, you need to be able to adapt pretty quickly. Like
Yeah,
people today get bored sooner, faster than ever before. And so I think you really need to be able to figure out how to keep your customer base interested and excited the entire time. And that's a very hard thing to do. And while you're doing that, I think it's critical that you obviously have to figure out a way to obviously be able to generate cash flow.
Yeah.
And so that was really the biggest thing for us, where we said, okay, we have so many of these different opportunities. Let's make sure that we have the same product, but we can sell it in multiple different ways in order to constantly generate cash flow.
Got it. Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. And for you guys, I mean, it's an interesting category to play in. And I feel like dates, to your point, most people maybe don't know a ton about dates. Could you maybe then dive into, like, when someone uses your product, what are they using it instead of? And is there also like a use case that you might be gaining new people who maybe weren't using a product like this that may now use a new product like this? Because I kind of, when I was researching it, I kind of saw both sides of it. I'm like, I think there's use cases where I could actually use this instead of what I use today, and then I don't know, maybe there's new use cases too.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest benefits of date syrup is that it has 25% less sugar than honey. It's vegan and it's low glycemic. I mean, that's been a huge thing. We've had some incredible partnerships with pediatric hospitals across the country,
Oh, nice.
largely since honey is an allergen. And so, date syrup is not. That's definitely been a really big part of it. I think, another thing is people are just looking for cleaner, better for you products and ingredients. And, we really do check all the boxes. We're sustainable. We use the ugly produce in order to reduce food waste. That's like a big part
Oh, nice.
of our entire company, of our fundamentals, and I think that, the world, I think, is just ready for, cleaner, better for you products. I think everybody's looking for no added sugar. And that's really what we pride ourselves on. And that's really what we look to build ourselves on. But, same thing from a food service standpoint, we started to sell many companies date paste, date sugar, date syrup in bulk. Date syrup is so much cheaper than maple syrup. And, it depends what flavor profile you're looking for, but it's much healthier than honey. It's also vegan. And so it's really a great alternative for that, but it's great in, baked goods. It's great in cooking, it's great in tea and coffee. And so, it's really an incredibly versatile product. And if you're looking to add a hint of sweetness to anything, this allows you to do so while still having 25% less sugar, in your product than you previously did if you were using honey.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That makes a ton of sense. Is there, I love asking this question because to me, it's always interesting to think through. Like for you guys, you saw this gap, and you, like you said, you're checking off all the boxes as far as like why consumers will want this product. Why do you think like none of the major food companies have thought of this or like wanted to come out with something similar?
Great. It's a great question. I think, it's a very tough, it's, it's a very tough space to navigate. And, we kind of looked at ourselves as an opportunity to model ourselves after Palm Wonderful, what they did with the pomegranate, what they've done with the pistachios, what they've done with cuties. And, they've been able to create incredible brands around a product.
Yeah.
And, around, like the pomegranates, the pistachios. And we thought, we could do the same thing. I think because it's such a nascent space and it's still so new, I think a lot of the bigger brands like we've seen, or a lot of the conglomerates, I don't think they want to spend the time or the money or the risk doing that. And I think they'd rather see a small, scrappy brand, see if they could, if they could win. And then if they
Yeah.
do, then I think it leads to an incredible opportunity, down the line. But I think they figured, hey, let's let somebody else do the legwork. Let's learn from them. Let them make the mistakes. Let's see what works here. And if it works, we can go from there. But it's the same thing if you kind of look at it back in the day with, Sabra hummus when they just launched.
Yeah.
They were, you had Tribe hummus around forever, but Sabra really did it right in terms of, like a commercially produced hummus. And, I think a lot of people thought like, oh, that's crazy. Like, hummus, it's been here forever, but still it wasn't on your kitchen table forever. What they were really able to do was they made it, one of the the healthy alternative Super Bowl snacks that was all of a sudden cool. And it used to be
100%.
like, I know growing up in Cleveland, a lot of Ohio pride here, but like, I remember I'd see hummus on like as an appetizer at one of the healthier restaurants we'd go to, and I would never order it. It didn't even cross my mind. And it's like now it's like I have hummus in my house all the time. I put it on everything. I love it, and that's really a big that's we see a lot of synergies there. And I think a lot of people, it took them a while to get on the hummus train, but I think now with the Mediterranean diet being so popular, it's wild how many emails, how many inquiries we get on a regular basis. Hey, we're looking to switch to date syrup from a sustainability angle. Hey, we're looking to switch to date syrup because it's less sugar. And, also most importantly is it tastes really, really good. And so I think, because we have that, which is critical, I think, it leads people to at least being intrigued in order to try the product. And so it's on us to make sure that we can make that it will remain affordable so that, people will continue to buy it. So, that's kind of how we look at it.
It makes a ton of sense. Yeah. No, I mean that's really cool. And it is funny how there's a lot of parallels to hummus. I had never really thought about it that way. But that is true. They've like taken over like, when it comes to that like healthy for you snacking, like especially the Super Bowl example. That's spot on. So it's interesting. So when you're cracking into a new industry like this, and you're bringing something to market that maybe your friends and family even, don't know much about. What were some of those conversations like early on? It's something I love asking founders. I think, unfortunately or fortunately, like your closest people in your circles can either kind of push you to do something or maybe like hold you back because they think it's a bad idea. What was that like for you guys as you like thought of launching a date syrup brand?
It's very funny. I mean, we're very blessed and lucky. I mean, we like Brian and I have we share a lot of the same friends in our core friendship group, and
Okay.
I think everyone was incredibly supportive, but I think over half of them thought we were crazy. I think a lot of people are like, guys, like, what are you doing? You know, this is such a like this is still such a new idea. Are you sure you want to like jump into it, do it full time? Are you guys really sure that you believe in it that much? And we just kind of saw the opportunity, especially when you look at the Middle East. You go to Egypt, Jordan, Israel, UAE. You see just rows of dates and date syrup on the shelves,
Wow.
and we think that 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 part of the world is just so far ahead of the game in terms of like clean, better for you eating. And yeah, there's just it's less processed. It's not, there's no GMOs, and it's a very, like, the Mediterranean diet is very clean. Olive, a lot of it is, even look at like falafel, it's chickpeas.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
like chickpeas, olive oil, tomatoes, cucumbers. Very very clean, ingredients. And And we kind of saw that, okay, look, if everybody was doing it, it would be easy. But this is an opportunity here for us to really try something totally new. And, there's two types of entrepreneurs, and I agree with both, or philosophies at least. A lot of people never want to be the first one to do something because there's a reason that nobody's done it.
Yeah.
But there's also a huge advantage too if you really develop a strong plan, surround yourself with, intelligent people, and you execute it properly. And so there's no formula to winning this game. A lot of it, there's an incredible amount of luck. You need to take chances. You need to, it's like, jumping into the pool. As a little kid, you're never fully ready, that mindset. Am I going to jump into the 6 feet side? I'm only 3 feet tall. And, it's like you do it and you're scared. You think you're going to drown. And, fortunately, hopefully, there's someone in there who's able to help you if you do have trouble swimming to the ledge. But, we kind of looked at it that this was just the perfect time and the perfect product. And, you can't live life with regrets. I mean, it's on us to make sure that we develop a sound strategy and, we hire the right people and, we execute properly. And
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
I think that you can mitigate risks tremendously by being prepared. And, I think that that's a critical thing that a lot of people have to understand. I mean, before Brian and I took this to market, I mean, we really did as much A/B testing as we could when it came to the type of dates we used, the type of, labels we used, even our pitches, the buyers we became friendly with, we would show them everything. Do you like this better or this better? At the farmers markets, what do you like better? We had 2 different types of products with 2 different labels, one light, one dark. What looks better on shelf? What are you more inclined to buy and why? And
Oh, wow.
I think that you obviously, that there can be overkill to that too. Like you have to execute, like you have to give yourself a deadline. I'm a big believer in deadlines. It's like, look, if you obviously need more time within reason, but you need to be decisive. If you're not decisive, then you can go in this analysis paralysis, situation forever. And
Sure.
so, I think a lot of it is just to be, a lot of it is to develop a strategy, develop a plan, surround yourself with smarter people than you. That's another thing, that I've learned. It's, hey, if I'm the one teaching everybody everything, then we're not going to win. I need to hire people that know more about, Facebook ads than me. I need to hire people that are better at marketing than me. Wherever my weaknesses are, that's where I look to hire a rock star because I want to rely on them, and so I think that, that's been a big part of it for us, honestly.
And that makes a ton of sense. And do you think so? I know this is also your like basically second venture in the CPG food space. Was there anything from the first one? We don't have to get really into what the first one was necessarily, but like was there anything you took from that? Like either good, bad, or like kind of gave you a step up? Because I've always, people who have done it more than once, I give a ton of credit to, because I'm like, you did it once, you figured it out, you moved on to another one, you're doing it again. Like the good and the bad that comes within the food space. And yet you're doing it again. I just think it's really fascinating.
It really helped me develop we have a really incredible process in place. And, now like we have a playbook that works where, we know how to take any brand from, 0 to, $8 million in sales. And
Okay.
if you follow this strategy, we will get there. Like as long as the product is good. Look, there's obviously a lot of other things. There's a lot of other things that need to be done in order for that to go right.
Sure.
But we now have a playbook that works where we know what you need to do, how to do it in order to get there profitably. And that's the thing. Too many people, that's the key. And that's what we really focus on because, you don't want to be too reliant on constantly raising money because, then, look, you're going to be overly diluted. And it's like, here, you're working so hard to build this beautiful thing. And it's, I mean, if you can figure out how to do it profitably, that's great. And so, look, a lot of people also take the tech approach where they're just focusing on top line revenue. That's never been mine or Brian's philosophy. And so, the first venture, Frugies, was really great. It really kind of taught me what to do. It was my MBA essentially. It really taught me this is how you, like, figuratively speaking.
Right.
It was exactly. Yeah.
Like it's like the Tim Ferriss example.
Yeah. And so it really taught me, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and this is how you scale quickly. This is where you want to focus in order to grow. And one of the biggest things that we really learned early on that's been pivotal to, our success with Devash has been, you need to find your super fans. I think as, you know, I think a lot of our generation, people aren't patient anymore. People forget that your overnight success took 10 to 20 years to build, and that's a long time. That's a decade or two. And look, some people get incredibly lucky. They do it very quickly. And there's obviously outliers always. But, you have to assume that you're not going to be one of those outliers. It'd be nice to be one. But like, at least for me, I always assume that, look, this is going to take time. We're going to do this the right way. And, or there's no right way, but, we're going to, we're going to focus on really building a community. And I think for us, it's really, one, it was figuring out that you need to find your super fans. We have a new nascent product. People aren't familiar with dates or date syrup. We need to find the people that are going to help us educate the world that we exist. That's one. Two, we're going to take care of those people. We're going to engage with those people. We're going to constantly communicate with those people. And it's the same strategy we took for retail. Too many people think like, oh, once you get on the shelf, life is good. It's so funny when, Brian and I got all these messages from our friends when we got into Costco. They're like, you did it. You're golden. You guys, when are you guys buying a yacht? And I'm like, yeah, very long time,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's a long road, but
That's just that's when the challenge just begins from my experience. Yeah.
Totally. And so the key is like, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to sell the product off the shelf. And I think that too many people think, oh, well, I need to get on every single shelf possible in order to generate that awareness. That's not the case. You need to find the right stores, the right fit for your product, where, you're going to constantly get the high velocity, the high turns, and build from there. And the stores that you're not selling well, you need to figure out, why is that? Is it not the right market for you? Are you not marketing it correctly? Are you not placed in the right location on the shelf? Are you priced too high? It's, there's all these things that come into play here. And so, I think that for us, we've been able to, do a lot in a relatively short period of time because of all the experience, we had in our previous venture. Yeah. And so it really kind of showed us what to look out for, and it was kind of like immediately, with Frugies, I'll never forget, we were so excited when we get all these inquiries from all these retailers. We're like, yes, 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 but you need to make sure you have the marketing budget to, make sure you can support yourself at those stores accordingly.
Sure.
And so, and that's another thing. It's like a lot of these free fills that brands are hit with, it's really, really tough. If you're a startup and you're, working on razor thin margins, and, you're also, not overly flushed with capital, I think a lot of the time people don't realize that, also working with UNFI and KHE, they're obviously a very necessary part of this business, working with the distributors. But, if you're a brand, you need to put up all that money up front for inventory. Then you need to give away a bunch of that product for free. And then what you are paid for, you get paid in net 30 or net 60 if you're lucky. And then there's additional deductions. Well, how are you supposed to hire a team? How are you supposed to run Facebook ads? How are you supposed to educate people that you exist? How are you supposed to create, allow for sampling? It's one of those things where you have to be really savvy, and it's really hard to do without raising a bunch of money in order to allow you those opportunities.
Do you, it's funny. I mean, you're hitting it right on the head. And I do at RX, I've done RGM, like revenue growth management. So that's been like my life right there in the weeds of what you just talked about. Do you have suggestions for anybody? I mean, I think because we talk about it here, and that was a question I had next was, bootstrapping versus raising capital kind of thing. For folks who are, want to sell a product, you just kind of name the game of why it can be so tough for young, nimble, scrappy entrepreneurs. Do you have a suggestion? Is it, to not go into those avenues until you have the cash to maybe pay for it? Or, I guess what would your experience tell you if you were to do it all over again?
I mean, I think there's two approaches you could take today. Like, I think, look, I still think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. I joke with all my friends, I think everybody should have an e-com business in today's world. Everybody should have a passive,
Agreed.
You have no excuse today. The world's global. We live in a global society today. everyone should be developing a product that's light and easy to ship that they can either sell through Shopify or Amazon, even Alibaba. There is so much opportunity there, and there's so much data and knowledge that we have access to today that everyone can do it. I mean, look, you can put up a website in 15 minutes. I remember what they used to teach us in grade school with HTML and logos. And, it took me weeks to create this website that did not look impressive. And today it's like, boom, Shopify, Wix, you're done, literally in 2 hours, 3 hours of time. So I think there's two different strategies you can take. I think, I think you can really be self-sufficient and run it for a long time on your own. But I do think that honestly, like if you're looking to go retail and if you want to be on shelf, I tell everybody that you need to raise money. It's either you need to have access to capital, you need to be willing to personally guarantee a loan, or you need to be able to raise the money, because it's kind of like a metaphor that one of our advisors uses. And, when we were just starting out, he told, we wanted to put money into marketing, but we didn't have a lot of money yet. And he said, he's like, hey guys, you got to look at this as a scenario where you're in a desert. You have a small amount of water. If you're going to take that small amount of water to try and grow a tree that isn't growing yet, it's just a seed. What are you going to do when you run out of that water? Then you planted your only seed that's supposed to give you the food, that's supposed to give you the nutrients. You're going to use your water. Nothing's going to grow. So what did you do? You just wasted your water. And so,
I love that.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm big on those stories. They really resonate with me. And so
goes well with the dates too.
Yeah, it does. But it really made me realize, like, he's absolutely right. And it's like I tell everybody, it's like, yeah, you can A/B test on Facebook ads. You don't need a tremendous amount of money to figure out what works. But then once you do figure out what works, you really need to make sure you have access to the money. You need to make sure you have access to the capital. I mean, I tell everybody, it's like, stay focused, stay small, and make sure like you have a plan, but don't be scared to pivot. Don't be scared to change directions. Too many people are married to an idea, and you need to be willing to change that idea over time so it can grow with what people are looking for in today's world. Remaining relevant is key. And, I think that, just because something worked 6 months ago doesn't mean it's going to keep working today. And you see it time and time again. That's the whole reason for innovation. Right. But, I tell everybody, it's like, look, if you're not able to raise money, there's a few things that are wrong here. It's either one, you don't have a good product. B, your product isn't right for the market today and you need to rebrand it or do something else, or wait, do something else. Or three, which I think is a lot of the time, is you're not telling your story the right way. In today's world, if you want to be successful, you have to be able to tell your story. You have to be able to educate people. And look, obviously, you need to have the strong margins. You need to have, that goes without saying. You need to have the strong margins. You need to be cost competitive. There's a lot that needs to be done that leads up to that point. But I'm a big believer. It's like, look, and I say this to everybody, but it's like, if you want to be able to raise money and you want to be successful, it's like you have to create a product that people immediately understand the need for, and they immediately see why it's going, they immediately see why it's going to work. And so I think too many people think just because they like it, everybody else does. That's not the case, And I think that in today's world, if you want to grow, it really all starts with being able to tell your story the right way. If you can tell it, you need to have that charisma, have that energy. And I think, like, as we were talking about, even before the show, like, the guys at Midday Squares do an incredible job. Really hats off to them. I love the full transparency angle. They're all amazing. And, but when I buy a Midday Squares bar, it's like, I want to support them. I want to support the vision. It's like every single thing about them exudes them, and that's what you get. And, and I think that that's infectious and it's incredible. And that's a very difficult thing to do that they've done. They've done it incredibly well. And, I think that a lot of companies today, you need to figure out, like they made me a super fan, going back to that. And that's what you really have to do. You need to find your market. You need to find who's going to really like this. And you have to make sure that there are super fans out there that are willing to back you, because you need to build your army. And if you don't have that army, it's going to be a very, very tough battle, because you're not, you need to sell this not only to investors, but to retailers. And, when you're selling on Amazon and Shopify, a lot of people think, oh, I'll set up a website, I'll launch ads, boom, I'm going to get thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, not millions of dollars in sales overnight. It's going to take a long time. You're going to need to A/B test. You need to create a lot of content, figure out what type of content resonates with your consumers. Who are you targeting? Who is your audience? I think too many times people say, oh, my demographic is everybody. It's too hard. You're not going to win that way. So.
No, 100%. I mean, for someone who's done that now, what would your suggestion be to someone who, this might be their first time thinking about launching a product, or they want to get into the food space? Like, how do you even go about finding, from your experience, finding like your tribe or your, like, your super fans?
I think a lot of it is talking to as many people as possible. That's really it. But a lot of it is, you need to be fearless. Like, we even have a rule at our company. We talk to 3 new people a day about our products. When I'm on an airline, I make sure that everybody around me knows what Devash is by the time they're off the plane.
I love that. Yeah.
Pre-COVID, I used to just give everybody, when we launched the bars, I would give everybody bars. Like, I give everybody our bites. And, everybody knew what it was by the end of the trip. And from there, it's like, you get an email from someone, say, hey, like, and I give everybody like my card, tell them, I always tell everybody all the time, like, my email and if they want to reach us. And, you'd be surprised by how many people respect what you're doing, and they want to be a part of your journey. They want to be a part of your mission. And, that's been a huge part for us. Look, I think a lot of people immediately, the second they see date syrup or date products, they assume, okay, health and wellness, into fitness, dates are vegan, checks a lot of the boxes off right there. So we can definitely target people that meet that criteria. And that's really what we did do. We have an incredible marketing team. A lot of what we've done initially is focused on outreach, focused on the micro influencer community with high engagement, find people that were willing to, help us generate and create content, that were interested in trying our products and creating finding our brand ambassadors, people that want to work with us to be a part of the Devash journey, was huge. And so, you also, you can't be bashful. You need to talk to every single one of your friends and family, and, you need to ask for help. Like, if you don't ask, you're never gonna get in life. And that was a very difficult thing for me to learn. I always kind of thought, oh, you got to do it all on your own. You can't ask for help. Sign of weakness. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I wish I learned that, many years ago. And so, now it's like, it's one of those things where, some of the best people we found, was at a workout studio in Los Angeles called Hot Eight Yoga. And, we went there with a bunch of bars, bites, and syrup, gave out a bunch of products, said, hey guys, we're a small local company to LA. We're looking to work with brand ambassadors. We don't have a big budget right now. What we'd love to do is give you some awesome swag, some hoodies, some t-shirts and workout gear, along with, unlimited products. And if you guys like the product, awesome. Please, post it on social. If not, no worries at all. But, we're really looking to partner with awesome people and create a cool community, and, have some fun while doing it. And we met some amazing people that I'm really good friends with today. But, I think, like, the farmers market also, was a great place. But I think a lot of it is, there's a lot of amazing people out there in the world, and you need to get out there, you need to meet them, and you need to be able to tell your story. And if you have a story that people want to be a part of, and if you have a product that tastes good, that's a beautiful thing about food, is it brings the world together.
100%.
It's one of those things where I think that, you'd be surprised by how many fans, by how many supporters you can find, by really just walking up to someone and saying hi.
I've had to tell a lot of people in this space. It's funny. You guys have done a lot of the similar things that I think we used to do at RX early on. I feel like giving out product for free sometimes I'm sure I didn't own RX Bar, obviously, but owning a business and giving out product for free sometimes early on must feel like an expense. Like, is this worth it? Is this going to pay off? You're thinking about the ROI, but I know from RX experience, it's crazy, like, how much free product we gave out and how authentic we were when we were doing it. but how many of those people turned into customers and told their friends about it, and it like passed on and on and on. To me, that's like the beauty of, to your point, the beauty of the food industry. I'll never forget like one of the first trips I went on with RX Bar, at like same thing, backpack full of RX bars on a plane. And by the end of the flight, I felt like everyone around me knew what RX Bar was. And it's so cool if it's a product you believe in. And it sounds like obviously Devash is the exact same thing. It's like you love it, you believe in it, and you like are proud to share it with people. I don't know. To me, that's why I'm into this. That's why I do this podcast. I think talking about the food industry is it's just a ton of fun.
It's amazing. I mean, I tell everybody, it's, a lot of people, they'll ask me the same question. They'll say, well, I don't know where to find people. I don't know, where to do this. And it's like, for me, the airlines, when we get to a hotel, anytime I check in at a hotel, if it's for a work meeting, I give everybody behind the desk, bars, bites, syrup, coupons. And, sometimes it leads to a free room upgrade,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. You probably get
never,
some great, drinks,
you never
something.
know. But
Yeah.
no, but in all seriousness, it's like,
But then also they're gonna remember David, who walked in here and like I tried date syrup for the first time, and they're like, "Wait, this shit's awesome."
totally, and that's what it is. And yeah, I mean, giving out free product, we recognize, we that's a massive marketing expense that you need to welcome with a smile on your face,
Yeah.
because that's going to be the only way that people need to try before they buy. We say that all the time. I mean, if you're not looking to give out the product, and if you're not looking for people to try it first, look, it's going to be very hard to sell them on anything. Word of mouth definitely works, but what works even better is letting people try something that they actually like. And
Sure.
if you're able to create that connection with them and they remember, like, wow, like that's an awesome product, I love what those guys are doing, there's a high likelihood you'll get a customer. And then if they like the product, hopefully they'll tell their friends, their family, and you can really create that awesome domino effect.
Right.
But it all takes time, and yeah, it's definitely expensive, but it's an expense that's totally worth it in my opinion.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I would totally agree. And like I said, it goes a lot further than you can imagine, especially if you have a good interaction. I mean, you just don't know how many people they're going to introduce the product to, and then all of a sudden your whatever it will cost you for a bar or a bite turns into the ROI can be incredible. And it's, I mean, people, I think to your point, people love to follow brands that they can, get behind with the founders, like the energy the founders bring. I mean, the Midday Squares guys are a great example. Jake and that team. I've had Jake on here before, and just like it's infectious. So I didn't know I wanted a Midday Square, and then you talk to him, and you're like, oh yeah, I need a Midday. It's funny. It is funny how you kind of that kind of works that way. To switch gears a little bit, because I know we're chumming through time here. One thing I want to hit on, I know I saw, and I don't remember exactly what month it was, but not that long ago, you guys announced a pretty big deal where you partnered with, and I'm going to probably screw this up, Albaraka Dates Factory. Is that pretty close?
Albaraka, yeah.
There we go, close. So that was something I wanted to ask, because to me that seemed like a huge partnership for you guys. I don't know a ton about them necessarily, but from my research, for people listening, I mean, you guys have gotten the distribution. You seem to have checked the box, in my opinion, for a lot of like the big successes in the CPG food industry. What was like the thought behind partnering with someone like them, and like what do you think that's going to unlock for you guys now that you've done that?
I mean, it's really an incredible story. It's wild. I mean, we started, we met them, honestly, is through a cold Google outreach email. And so we even joked about this when we were in Dubai a couple months ago, where Yusuf, he said that he'll never forget when he got an email from me, and he's like, how many drums of dates of date syrup is this guy looking to order? Like, how many containers? And I think he thought like either this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's like, but I don't want to totally just blow it off, because what if it's real? And so, this is many years ago now. I think we started working with them 3.5 years ago, and or 3 years ago. And we recognized that in order to in order to succeed today, like obviously you need to focus on margin and profitability. And these guys just had an incredible product, and we always are big believers, and you always need a backup. You can never just have one supplier. God forbid they have a bad crop, and let's say you have orders. How are you going to fill them if you can't get ingredients from your supplier? And so we always believe in having backups. And with these guys, we immediately hit it off with them, really good people. And it all just started off from a Google email, and we started buying small quantities from them. And, one thing led to another. And we ended up ordering so much product where, Brian and I were actually looking at raising money from a fund in New York. And when we were talking about it with Albarca, they said, "Hey guys, look, we have an incredible partnership. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to really work together." And
Oh,
so
wow.
that's really what this has done, is it's made us a fully vertically integrated operation. So, we now have the capability to produce everything. We have the capability to, we have no issues of sourcing supplies, ingredients. We can do
Wow.
everything partnered with them, and it's taking Devash to the next level. And so, now that's the thing. We can service everything from, retail to food service. We can build anything we want, since we have an incredible team with all of us working together. And that's really what this has done, is it gave us an amazing team overnight. I mean,
Yeah, I bet.
it's just been unbelievable, the amount of experience and knowledge and expertise that they have, and the grit and tenacity, that we have. When you combine that, it's unstoppable. And, we've been really, really lucky, to have them as partners. They believed in us from the beginning. And, it was really a match. It was really like a match made in heaven, like here, like, I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of brands have too many issues with, is that you need to find people that believe in you. And, it's one thing to be given money, but what's even worth more than that is the guidance and advice that, and the guidance that it's the guidance and advice, but also the, the doors that people are really willing to open for you. And so
Yeah.
I think that too many times when brands raise money from a VC or even angels, pre the deal being signed, people will say X, Y, and Z. They'll sell you the sun, moon, and the stars. And then when it comes down to it, you don't always get what you thought you were going to get. You got the money,
Yeah.
and you got them in your corner, but you didn't always get everything. And that's what this really did, is that it really gave us everything. For us, one of the biggest headaches that we found was, production. Working with co-packers is, and as I'm sure you've heard horror stories, but it's really, really tough to find, solid, reliable co-packers. If there's anything in the industry that you hear time and time again, it's about how, oh, the supplier sent me the wrong product, or, the co-packer bought the wrong cap, or they bought the wrong bottle. And then it becomes this domino effect that just leads to massive delays and headaches and problems. And look, that's all part of the nature of this beast, and it's a part of the game with manufacturing. You can't get mad. It's going to
Yeah,
happen.
sure.
And nothing is perfect. That's just the world that we live in. But this was really as close to perfect as it could have been. And not only do they believe in us, not only do they have an incredible operation, but from a scalability standpoint, from a production standpoint, this is really going to allow us to become the premier date company in the United States, if not the world. And so
That's
that's what
badass.
that's what we're going for. And
Yeah.
so we have a long road to go, and we've got a long journey ahead of us, and still a tremendous amount to learn. But we're setting ourselves up really well. And especially now that we have such an amazing team, and getting guidance and advice, from people that have done it before. I mean, it's been amazing. But what we really love about it is when we get together, on our calls, or during our meetings, it's we can we get to really come together as a team, figure out where the gaps are in the market, and we're trying to create that. And it's amazing to have partners that are on board with that. It's figuring out, okay, how can we reduce our cogs here? How can we increase our margins here? What if we make this slight change? What if we make that? It's like a
Oh, it's
lot of
fun.
times when you're working with a co-packer, it's on you and your team to develop that. You're talking with someone at the co-packing facility, they're working with 10 other brands at the same time, and it's always hard to get people's attention. And so this has really allowed us to own the entire process from start to finish, which has just been unbelievable in terms of growth for the long term.
That's badass. And I don't know how much of this is public, so you don't have to share anything you don't, but I mean, do you guys give up a little bit of equity, or like, how, for people listening who are thinking like, oh, that'd be crazy cool to like partner with someone like that, is like, what do you have to do to like actually become a partner with someone like that at that level?
I think it's really different on a case by case basis. I think what it really comes down to is you need to have mutual respect and trust, but you need people that really believe in your mission and driven and your mission and vision. And
Sure.
and that's what they 100% did. And I think a lot of times, we have a couple friends that partnered with their suppliers, and in order to grow, it's like, look, if you've developed a relationship with people over the long term and you have trust, that's all you need. If you believe in them and if they believe in you, and you guys balance each other out, and if they have strengths where you're weak and vice versa, that's half of the battle right there. It's like, not to use another analogy, but it's like to look at everything. It's like sports. You can have, I think even when you look at the NBA finals right now and you see who's in there, I think, everybody's stunned that the Brooklyn Nets, were knocked out. And,
Yeah, right.
it's, but you need a team and you have to be working together. And I mean, it's like, if you look at the Atlanta Hawks, nobody expected them to get as far as they did, but they did because, they clearly worked so well as a team. And you cannot do, like, I think the biggest thing that a lot of founders have difficulty understanding is, one, you know, when you hire other people or you bring on investors, you need to get people, you need to find people that believe in you and believe in your mission and vision. You can't worry about the control. You can't worry about, oh, somebody else isn't going to put in the same amount of effort as me. You need to focus on growth, and you need to find the right people that are going to help you get there. I mean, look, even when you look at doing anything in life, nobody has gotten there alone.
Right.
That's just the truth. And too many people are too scared. And you need to have a certain level of trust in people in order to make something work. And fortunately for us, we were able to find that early on. And I tell everybody that it's like, look, before you go any further, like, raising money is key, but what's even more important to that will lead you to raising the money or getting your advisors or developing your partnerships? You need a team, because you're
Sure.
not going to be able to do everything on your own. There's only so many hours in a day. And even if you're the most efficient person and you utilize all the amazing new, technology and apps out there, you're still not going to be able to do it all on your own. And people aren't going to want to partner with somebody who's doing it alone, because they know they have a much higher likelihood of failing.
Right.
And I think that's really a lot of it. It's, you need to figure out, you need to bring on people who balance you out and make you stronger as a team, and just make sure that they can really, just make sure that they understand your long-term vision and your plan, and don't digress from that.
Yeah. Love that. No. Makes a ton of sense. It sounds like you guys have an incredible partner, and I think that's it's gonna obviously elevate you guys to the whole next level. I know, being in that similar, ingredient space, having a vertically integrated date production, that's a huge leg up. So good for you guys. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, the last few questions I love to ask all of the founders that come on here, because I think all of you guys have had, incredible responses to these. So the first one, obviously, you running a business, have a ton of things on your plate. You're pulled in a ton of different directions. What tools do you use to track, your goals, and then even like daily tasks just to get shit done? Are you an app guy? Are you a pen and paper kind of guy? Like, what do you do to organize your life?
I'm definitely an app guy. Like, I definitely think, I mean, look, I'm not against, like, every business meeting I go to, I bring a notebook and a pen and paper. I find that for me, in terms of like in-person meetings, it's much easier for me to focus if I write it all down, kind of like back in, college, high school type of,
Yeah, sure. Like notes.
routine. But yeah, I mean, there are incredible tools out there, like, Trello, Monday.com. I mean, even like Google Sheets, like, so many people think that, right out of the gate, it's like everybody wants to move straight to Salesforce. And it's like, look, there's a lot you can do with just a Dropbox and an Excel sheet, or, Google Docs, depending on if you use G Suite. And
Yeah.
so, I think a lot of it is being, efficient and, fiscally mindful of your budget. But there's so much you can do out there. I mean, there's so many tools that, you can use on a regular basis that will give you everything you need in order to stay organized. But we're big believers in organization, structure, being on time. I think that's really pivotal to one's success.
Got it. Yeah, I love that. I go back and forth. I have like a paper planner I use today. Something about putting it on paper and like one less thing I got to look at on a screen. But I'm with you. I have like a Google sheet that has just like all of my business stuff in one place. So I have like one place
Totally.
to go to. I love Google. I'm like one of the few finance people that I think loves Google Sheets because I love how versatile it is on all platforms. Like I have it on my phone. I have it. No, it's just nice to have everywhere.
It's amazing. I mean, it's super simple.
Yeah.
It's seamless. Yeah.
I totally agree. The next one is I say book, but it can be favorite book, podcast, just source of knowledge. If you know any of the audience listening, what would you suggest as a great book or source of knowledge for them?
Um, I I mean, it really that's a tough one. I mean, podcast. I mean, you mentioned How I Built This by Guy Raz. I think that's phenomenal. I love that. I think it's really great. It's always great to step into the mind of a founder. I learned so much kind of, as we were talking about in the beginning, I get together with like, Brian Tate from Oats Overnight,
Yeah.
at least once a month, and I learned so much from him. I mean, he's an absolute beast when it comes to everything e-commerce. And, I'm a big believer in, learning how other people did what they did, minimize the, if you can mitigate your risks, you can learn so much from people who've done it already today. And so, I think that's definitely, that's definitely a huge thing. I can't tell people enough. I mean, I think also I really enjoy, there's a bunch of podcasts on like CNBC and also, like the Motley Fool,
Yeah, yeah.
forget whether or not you're into, investing or stocks. There's a lot you can learn just from what people are doing in the world today. And, like one of my early morning routines is honestly just hopping out of bed and, 6 a.m. listening to a podcast for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And it's always important to be aware of what's going on in the world and just seeing how people do what they do. But also you'd be really surprised by, especially with something like Guy Raz with How I Built This. You can reach out to people on his podcast and they'd actually be quite responsive. Like
Yeah, sure.
that's I think what people don't realize. Like, oh, it's not attainable. Like I can't get in touch with them like Guy Raz can, but I
Right.
can't. It's like that's not true.
No.
Like if you like I've gotten in touch with a couple of people and I just said like, hey, I heard your podcast on X, Y, and Z. Was really impressed by everything you had to say, and I'd really love to hop on a call with you or grab a coffee. When it was pre-COVID. Hopefully now soon everybody will be
Sure.
comfortable with that. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's gone a long way, and I've met amazing people and gotten incredible advice from
I tell people all the time. When I started this podcast at the beginning, I started right when COVID hit. I didn't even know if I was going to get guests on, and I get that question a lot of like, oh, how'd you get so and so on your podcast? I'm like, you just got to shoot your shot, like especially if it's something like this. I mean, people love to talk about what they're building and helping them get their brand out to more people, like depending on your platform or who you are and what you have. I don't know, I'm a big fan of like Gary V. Like you want to add value for people, right? Like I hope people hear of Devosh
that.
today and try it for the first time, and there's value that you get by taking the time to talk to me. I always tell people like just got to be yourself and offer to help them. What can you offer someone who's crazy busy? That's something that could add value in their life, right? And then maybe you can have an opportunity to meet them or talk to them or just have a quick conversation.
No, it's so true. And I mean, we're so lucky to live in the world we live in today. It's kind of like, Gary Vee, he said previously, he's telling you all of his secrets, but it's
Hmm.
on you to do it. And I think that's the issue is too many of us think it's impossible. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's not the case. Like, look, there's so much information out there, now look, are you going to spend the hours that it will take to really develop an incredible process and listen to all those podcasts, reach out and try and, communicate and have conversations with those people so you can hone in and develop an incredible process. I mean, that's on us as
Right.
individuals, but the information today, unbelievable. You can do
Crazy.
anything you want today. Like it's really amazing.
It's amazing. And it's all usually in this phone here that's,
Yeah,
sitting right
the
next to you all the time.
computer. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The last one and the most important one, how can people follow along with your journey and how can people get involved and try Devosh?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for us, it's obviously they can follow us on Instagram at Devash Organics. But also it's like communication is key. Something that we really pride ourselves in is, we really love developing a relationship with our community. I'm also really big on, look, I know how hard it is for founders. I know, how hard it is for people to grow, but community and founders, I mean, we always just say, email us. My email is david@devashorganics.com. Brian's is brian@devashorganics.com. And, we're really big in communication. If anyone has any thoughts, we're always looking to improve. We're always looking to grow. If anybody has any ideas, please let us know. We're incredibly responsive. We
Love
have a
that.
great customer service team as well. But for us, I mean, we want to talk with people. If you're not a fan, if you don't like the product, I want to hear even more from you as to why.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, it's great.
it's a big thing. And
Feedback's a
so,
gift, right?
yeah, exactly. And so for us, it's really, we're just looking to communicate and meet as many, awesome people as we can.
Love that. Love that, man. Well, David, thank you so much for the time today. It was a pleasure getting to hear a little more of your story and get to know you a little bit, and wish Devash Organics the best of luck. And hopefully we'll get a bunch of new people trying after this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shane. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Have a good one.